It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, July 14th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that's grading Danny Briere's offseason.
Like a teacher.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we are going to get to a new poll question for the week later in the show with our Nemesis, as we do each and every Monday. And it is our off-season calendar, as we said on Friday's show. So we will have a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show this week. Do want to catch up on some Flyers news first, though, in that some of the Flyers' new signings had some media availability, and we got a little bit more insight into why they decided to sign with the Flyers and, you know, what their goals are for this upcoming year. And I thought it was really interesting. Now, we know that Christian Dvorak had experience with Rick Tocchet before, but I think we got a little bit more insight into his coaching style, and especially something that's very important to us that we've talked about a lot in terms of developing young players. And he mentioned that specifically, that he was very good with the young players in Arizona.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. We did talk about that a while back. I don't know how many shows ago, and
when they hired him,
yeah, it's definitely a factor, and so it's good for Dvorak to mention that. Like, he's a good team guy. He struggled in Montreal only because they tried to make him a 2C, and he's not a 2C. As long as you don't do that, he's a very productive player.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, again, Tocchet emphasized to him before he signed there, you know, obviously they talked because they know each other, right? You know, that there is an opportunity for him there at center in one of those two depth positions. And, you know, last week when we talked about trying to suss out what the Flyers lineup might look like, I believe that was our Thursday show. And, you know, we talked about very specifically that he was going to be likely the 4C. But if Trevor Zegras was swung out to wing, then Dvorak would move up to the third center position, and that either would be very good to have him at, especially given those face-off skills, you know, and he also has a really strong penalty kill.
He does. Like, he's going to get, even if he starts the game at 4C, there's going to be face-off opportunities that he's going to be in there for. That is what he'll get more minutes than the average 4C center if that's the way it goes. So, yeah, I don't think getting minutes is a problem. I think he knows that. I think he knows if he's productive, he can get a bigger, not necessarily bigger, more long-term contract from somebody next year, whether it's the Flyers or somebody else. And so, yeah, he made a smart move.
I think so. And he said specifically that the Flyers pursued him as an option. And you had to read between the lines a little bit, but the high salary for the 1 year was definitely something he and his agent were pretty adamant about. It seemed like.
Well, no doubt. I mean, his agent always gets the most for his players. So that's what he does.
Yeah. And Dan Vladar was also interviewed. And I think it's always so dicey and interesting when goalies are asked about the other goalies on the team.
It's an uncomfortable moment.
It is. And so I thought he handled it pretty well when he was asked about working with Sam Urson, and he gave the usual line of he's just going to play his best hockey, and whoever gets the starts, and team success is the most important because hockey is the most there's no I in team sport, I think, out there.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he knows what to say. Goalies, they all know going into it, there's only a certain amount of jobs, and it doesn't pay to be a jerk to the fellow goalie like Ilya Brizgalov was, as an example. It doesn't pay to do that. And so guys really, respect the other goalies, even if they're trying for their job. But that's fine. I mean, it makes it for a healthy competition.
Yeah, and I think it was also fun that he's apparently friends with Jake Voracek, and to have him in particular as a reference for the Flyers and the city and the fans, like, is certainly a thing. But we love Jake Voracek.
Oh, yeah.
Really on the wall behind my head here. So huge Jake Voracek fan here in everything he does. But I think, having Jake as a reference for the Flyers was a good thing to help get him here.
Reference, sure. Life coach, that would be different. That might need some examining, but he didn't say that, so that's good.
Yeah, and I thought the other interesting part was talking specifically about Kim Daba, because he's somebody that we've been critical of for sure.
For good reason.
And that's for good reason. And that's been based on results of goalie development in particular. Like, we don't know him personally, and we're not goalie training experts. So we don't know the ins and outs of the day-to-day about how he works. And everybody does speak highly of him. But it's just, again, this is just a purely results thing that we've looked at here. But the fact that Vladar really heard good things about him and trusts him, and I think it's really cool that Daba is going to Prague to visit him over the summer to check in on his training. I think that's a really good thing.
That's a great thing. Look, end of the day, like you said, this is a results business, and at the end of the day, Kim Daba will be judged on these results. If Dan Vladar goes under his career average while he's a Flyer, and the Flyers goaltending isn't much better or not better at all, guess who it's going to fall on? Kim Daba.
Right. I think so. Now, the other bit of NHL news that was a little bit disheartening, I gotta say, was related to the draft and decentralization. Elliot Friedman and others, posted that the GMs were taking a vote to see if they wanted to do it again next year. And it seems as though that is the direction that they are going in, that they're going to tweak how the broadcast goes for day one to try and tighten things up. But we're doing decentralized again. And I did not love it, I gotta say.
No, I mean, and I don't know what it was like. I mean, I got an idea from what people were saying on the other end, because I was there, right? But I was in the ESPN truck, and I was at the Nerve Center, and it's a technological marvel to try and pull that off with all the telecommunications. Right. I saw the screen with everybody on it. Like, it's a lot more complicated than I think people realize. However, I don't think this is the GMs, Rachel. I think this is the owners. I think there's enough GMs out there that don't want this, but I think there's enough owners that just want to save money. And I think saving money is the reason this is happening. That's it. That's really what I think.
Yeah, it's just such a shame, like, from my perspective, in terms of the fan experience and from what I perceive the player experience to be. I can't speak for them for sure. And this year's draftees can only speak to their own experience. They obviously don't know what it was like to be drafted when it was all in one room, right? But it just felt so different, and there was like a lack of a personal touch there with the remote video interviewing and all that.
I mean, there wasn't. There were people like me there. There was a fair amount, but not a normal amount as usual. So let's go back. So
I meant on the broadcast, with the remote interviewing to the GM with the player standing there, that part of it.
Yeah, you're not going to see that now. That part's going to change, and rightly so. Look, I can go back 2005, Sidney Crosby at a hotel in Ottawa. Didn't have a big, massive thing like he should have, right? People during COVID, draft picks, didn't get any personal interaction at all. So they do at least get some in this. Is it enough? Probably not. Is it a loss of branding? Yes. Because again, I'm just going to bring up the Blackhawks. Like, you you had your best player, Anton Frundell, there, your best new player, not the best player, best new one. And you had him on Zoom, fine. Media talked to him, fine. Fans didn't get to see him on the ice. Fans, that weren't in LA didn't get to experience him in person. And so there's a lot of fans that are going to probably watch the World Junior Summer Showcase just to see this guy, because they really haven't seen him, because they probably didn't watch any of his games overseas last year. Rightly so. It's hard to find or expensive. And he's not the only player like this. There's a lot. Yeah. And I think there's a loss of branding that happens right after the Zoom calls, after they spoke to the live media at the event, through dev camp, until they finally have training camp. And it's like, if that's what they want, I mean, they want to save that money, that's fine. But I think they're losing in exposure, and that also sells tickets and merchandise and other things too.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. But in the meantime, we are at a point where we can look back and say, what did Danny Briere do this offseason to take the Flyers next step? And we're going to talk about that coming up next. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. When you have that new project that requires just the right hire to pull it off, the pressure's on. Every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support Locked On Flyers by saying you heard about Indeed on the show. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. All right. On our Wednesday show, we are going to talk about the salary cap and how the Flyers are going to manage to it, because they're pretty close right now, but we've got some LTIR issues to talk about. So we are going to dig into all of that, plus answer your mailbag questions as we do pretty much every Wednesday. So let us know via email at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. You can send us a message on any of our socials or comment on our YouTube channel. So, Russ, looking at what Danny Briere and the crew have done this offseason, I think, the list of things that we have here are the Trevor Zegras deal, signing, I would say, Dan Vladar and Christian Dvorak. There's the other depth signings too, but not as critical, but important nonetheless. Noah Juleson, I think specifically on the blue line, is the most important of those three. They got the deals done for every single RFA they wanted to. Now, we know they didn't qualify everyone, but those also an action. But we got, Cam York, Noah Cates, Tyson Forster, even Helge Grans, who we were hoping they would re-sign, and they extended Rodrigo Abels and Oscar Eklund as well. Eklund, we didn't care as much about, but still good to have the depth in the system. Yeah. Then they drafted Porter Martone and 4 really solid second rounders with high NHL potential, and hired Rick Tocchet as a head coach. So that's a pretty good start to the summer for Danny Briere.
Yeah, it's a good start. I think the coaching hire is really good. On surface, most of these signings are good. I still think it's incomplete with that other forward, because I wouldn't want to count on all these other young players that we talked about to kind of fill the void. He might. He's saying he does right now, but that could change.
I think if you put the Tyson Forster injury aside, let's assume he's healthy, I think it's good. I do think that's an issue they're going to have to address.
I can't put it aside. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the only thing preventing
at the time of the signing, right, that was not a factor.
Right. So I can't give him an A+ because of that, but I'm giving him high marks. I think he did most everything else he needed to do. We'll see if Dan Vladar is enough of an upgrade. It's going to be a slight upgrade for sure. Will he win the number one spot? I'm not expecting that. Honestly, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I do think he's the kind of guy that the Flyers needed to add at goaltending. Whether he's the right guy to be determined, but he's certainly the right kind of goaltender that the Flyers needed. I think, the price was pretty good as well. And, I talked about his media availability. One of the other things he mentioned was wanting a multi-year deal, because he said that for goaltenders in particular, moving around a lot is difficult for training consistency and comfort and stuff like that. So he wanted a 2-year deal so that he would be able to be more set.
Want a 2-year
Yeah. Like, because you want to be able to be more settled. So I think, like, if you have a little bit of a doubt about that 2 years, that's partially why.
I look at it differently, I guess. I expect that. A point to bring up is, I remember in his draft year, there was interest in Dan Vladar being the goalie here, but they didn't draft him. And, that was pre-Danny Briere and everything else. So, now they're finally going to get a look at him. And so, to me, I find that interesting, because we'll see, for those people that were calling for Dan Vladar back then, if that was the right call. Now we'll find out.
I think this is a great group of moves to advance the team based on where they are in the rebuild right now. I think there is some risk to it, but not a ton of risk. Overall, I think that you want to take a step forward this upcoming season as far as results go. For me, the thing is, you want to be able to play a complete season and not have things drop off at any given time. I think, seasons have ups and downs. I get that. But I think an overall consistency, I think, would be better. Obviously, we want them to improve the power play. Yeah. I think they've done it from a coaching hiring perspective, but it's going to be up to these players to execute on it. And we'll see if the new players help contribute.
Well, it's going to improve, but how much is it going to improve?
Right.
It can't
exactly.
not improve. I mean, that's impossible.
Well, yes. Right.
Let's be real about that.
Yeah. But as far as like where the Flyers were at the end of the season versus where I think they could be at the end of next season, I think that's the right kind of step forward to be taking.
Yeah, I think they're going to take a step forward, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be in that final 11 that have a chance at Gavin McKenna, because the mushy middle is pretty deep. Like that's, again, a lot of times teams don't foresee being in the mushy middle until they're in the mushy middle.
Right.
Like it just happens.
You kind of go from like being at the bottom to wanting to be in a strong playoff run, and you forget about the mushy middle that you sometimes have to slog through to get there.
And so like the Sabres are still in it, like it happens. It just, so that's the thing. But I do believe they'll be better. I believe the players will have a more enjoyable season, and, and I think the fans will enjoy it more. Beyond that, I don't look at them as a playoff team. I don't. And for the people that do, hey, maybe they'll make it. But I don't view them that way. Not yet. Maybe something will change in my brain. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see this new team under this new coach before we can say that, to be honest. I just don't see, with this much change, how you can predict it from jump, like at this point. I think we'll get a sense of it in the preseason a little bit. And, maybe by late November, we'll have like a clue
better
as
idea
to of what this team is. Yeah, I'm not comfortable saying this team is a playoff team either until I see any of this, especially Trevor Zegras. I want to see how he's playing. I want to see where he's playing in the lineup. And I want to see, some other things too, like, are the line combinations working? Is he adjusting appropriately? And I feel like what we think is going to happen is that the team is going to play with a little bit of a lighter touch. They're not going to be gripping their sticks as hard. It just feels like it's going to be an intense but less stressful season for these guys, given Rick Tocchet's style, his open communication. He's a player-friendly guy. So I feel like this team will advance forward. It's just interesting because some of the other teams in the division have also taken steps. So we'll see how that goes. But,
Right. I mean, yeah, that'll be on a different show. Like, as an example, Sam Urson, his career save percentage is 888. He was an 883 last year. I believe he'll be better than 883. Do I know he's going to be better than 888? No, because so far that's what he's been. And so that has to get better. Somebody has to be over 900 and somebody has to do it for a meaningful amount of games. And so, like, that's to me a massive part of the season.
Right. And I think, we'll get into some more specific goals as we get closer to the new season, but having a team goaltending average at 900 seems like a reasonable goal to have.
I mean, that's basic. Like, that should be basic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But I do think the collection of moves that Danny Briere has made looks good overall. I think that, you could nitpick an individual one, but when you look at it as a collective group of moves, I really do think the Flyers are headed in a positive direction here. Again, the players are just going to have to execute, and that's what it always comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, that's 3/4 of it for sure. And, he spent the money he could spend. There is a bit more he can spend, and that would be with buying out Nick Delorier too. Like, there is still a way to get better if he wants to.
Yep.
I don't know if the want is there for this extra step. That's what I don't know.
This year
in
particular.
Yeah.
I think a year from now, he's going to want to take that extra step. But I think for this year, it's not entirely necessary. But we are going to get into those cap options on the Wednesday show.
Yes.
Like I said, in the meantime, it is Monday. And as always, we will have a new off-season poll question for you and have our new Nemesis of the week. We'll do that coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. I'm going to say pick Matt Olson for the Home Run Derby. I think he knows that ballpark. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right. So before we get to our poll, just want to mention that today registration starts for the Gritty 5K. And I mention it, it's always a fun activity every year. It's Saturday, October 4th. There is a preseason game later in the day. So you get to do the run and then go to a game.
And then you can go to the game.
Yeah, so I will definitely be there. And in fact, I have started the Couch to 5K running program. So I hope to actually run it this year as opposed to walking it. But I'm not going to make 100% commitment because I have knee issues. So we'll see how that goes. But I will be there, and I might bring some Locked On Flyers stickers to anybody.
There you go.
So I can hand them out at the walk. So if you're going to be there, let me know. We'll, of course, follow up on this as we get closer to the event. Now, for our poll question this week, we were just talking about grading Danny Briere's offseason that sort of kickstarted a goals conversation for the upcoming season. So what is the most important goal the Flyers should have to you, the listener, this upcoming season? They're all important. We know that. But what to you is the most important choice here? And your 4 options are seeing the new prospects play, goalie stability, Mitchkov player development in year 2 and ideal line sorted for him. And then lastly, making a playoff run. So those are your 4 choices. Okay. If there's something else that's most important to you, you can put that in the comments. The link to the poll will be in the show notes and it's over on our YouTube channel. So make sure you have your voice heard on this one. Can't wait to talk about these results on the Friday show. So moving over to our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked about not having the schedule and not being able to figure out games on the road to attend and life plans and all that. Still don't have it. As we said, we think we're getting it on Wednesday. So we'll probably talk about that on the Friday show in terms of key dates and complaining about how many back-to-backs there are, because that's what we always do.
Yep.
But and the times for the West Coast games, as far as Flyers After Dark, which is always a good time. But so I'm still in that mode, I guess. You talked about something you repeated a little bit on today's show about having on-ice activity for development camps and fan access to kind of bring them into welcoming these new prospects onto their teams, and it's still a good one, that is for sure. This week I have to mea culpa a little bit. I feel bad, but I don't feel bad in a lot of ways. So when we did our development camp recap, both of us had discussed how we thought that Ty Murchison, though he had some really good moments in the Phantoms tail end of the season after he joined the team and thought he showed out really well, he just didn't necessarily have a great development camp per se. He didn't stand out particularly, or and he got beat a few times on some stuff. It's not necessarily a bad thing because it shows what he has to work on, which is always good to learn at these camps. And I think him being on the Phantoms this upcoming season is going to be really, really good for him and his development. And I do like him as a player overall.
Yeah, okay.
However, we did sort of ding him a little bit on his development camp. And then they put out some of the social media content around development camp, and they do these little quick hit interview videos. And one of them that the Flyers did was, what's the thing you know the most about other than hockey? And Ty Murchison, God bless him, best answer, it was musical theater, which is my other love and my other favorite thing next to hockey is
now I admit I didn't expect that answer. I retweeted it. I was like, oh, that's cool.
It's super cool. Super cool. And he mentioned that his sister was in a lot of plays that he went to see, so he knows it really well.
Yeah,
and
he had a go-to play, good for him.
He did, which is Newsies, which is fantastic. I love that choice. Love that choice. And so my nemesis is a little bit of my guilt, feeling critical of him when he had literally my favorite answer to that question. Okay. And I do like him as a player, and I'm looking forward to his upcoming season.
All right. My nemesis is going to be Major League Baseball and the AllStar Game. So it's so weird. It's like they have an AllStar Game. It's like every other All-Star Game, but it used to hold a lot of significance. Now it's been holding less significance, and pitchers have backed out. And so there's one pitcher that definitely should have been on the All-Star team, Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies, right? So they asked the Phillies about this, and a lot of players spoke out and said it was garbage. Should have been on it.
Right.
The agent said it was a travesty. I agree with all of them. The worst part is that Major League Baseball puts out this. I don't think they put it out. I think they gave information to a reporter to put it out that, hey, they reached out to 12 pitchers and this is who we came up with. They used a guy that literally has pitched 5 Major League games in his career. That's who they used. And it's like, okay, Major League Baseball, you failed on this. You did. And I'm not even going to blame the manager of the All-Star team. This is Major League Baseball failed on this. It's obvious Sanchez should have been chosen. And now you've just kind of made a mockery of your own game that used to be the best, the gold standard. So I can't believe 12-year-old Russ Cohen would be so mad at today's Russ Cohen for saying you're killing the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, but they are. And this is part of the reason why. Good for the Phillies giving Sanchez his All-Star bonus, by the way, even though he was snubbed. They didn't have to do that.
Really? I didn't realize they gave him the bonus. That's good.
So that's really nice. So it was a silver lining to a really lousy situation.
Yeah. I mean, All-Star games in general are so weird. And that's partially why I'm kind of glad the NHL had 4 nations this year, because we got rid of all of that. No, I mean, I guess there were All-Star-ish lists put out.
Sure.
But it's just the whole drama around it kind of subsided once we had
like
Four
the John
Nations
Scott stuff.
Right, which I loved the John Scott stuff at the time. I was there.
Weird.
I went to it.
Weird.
So
yeah. The whole thing was weird. That's all.
It was weird. It's objectively weird, but it was fun weird in the best way. It turned out really good. It turned out really good in the end. But yeah, and like I said, I made the trip to Nashville.
But even the way he was
game.
They didn't want him on the ballot, like and he still got voted in, right? Wasn't that the thing? Like they tried to suppress the ballot a little bit with him.
They did.
And so,
they tried to make somebody else the MVP, and that didn't work either.
Right.
So and he scored multiple goals and actually played well. So you couldn't even hand wave that away. It was a whole thing. But yeah, All-Star games are very weird in general these days. They're just different.
Used to be great. It's really changed. And so, but this one used to be the best, and now it's not the best.
Yeah. Yeah, the home run derby is something that
home run derby is still good.
Yeah, it was always a part of summer, and you knew the season was halfway over when you got to.
Well, I don't know if I look at it that way, but yes.
Yeah, well, not a Phillies fan, so you don't get to have the joy. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. We will be back on Wednesday to discuss the Flyers cap management and strategy for this year, and maybe looking ahead to the big contracts down the road that the Flyers are going to have to sign. Plus, we'll have your mailbag questions. So send those in via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off-season. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. I'm on the show every Friday. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.